again for another week. You get this up here. You can. There she is. Oh, Miss Crystal, please see me after class. Okay? All right, thank you. Felix Varela y Morales, Venerable. Here's a picture of him. I'm assuming it's accurate. Looks kind of accurate. Anyways, Felix Varela, 1788 to 1853. Right here, 1788, Mr. Wachakowski to 1853. Born in Cuba, in Havana, the city of Havana, and grew up there, went to school there, went to the university, eventually became a priest, but a very educated man. He, when he was at the seminary, he was on their faculty and he taught philosophy, but he also taught subjects like physics and chemistry. So he knew the natural sciences as well, kind of active politically. He agitated, not in a bad sense, I guess, but that's the word I'm using, for the independence of Cuba, which was still in the Spanish Empire of his prawl. It's under New Spain, which Puerto Rico was as well at this time, as we already know from Venerable, what's his name? Not Felix, what's his name? Cordero. Not Morales. So the last guy. I'm drawing a blank right now. Sorry, Venerable so-and-so. Anyways, part of the Spanish Empire, and so he wanted independence, and he was also agitating against slavery, which was still a reality in the Spanish Empire. So that kind of made him persona non grata in Cuba. In fact, they put out a death warrant for him. They wanted to kill him. So that's how he became ours. He fled to the United States to avoid the sentence of death. He went to Florida first, and then eventually he went to Florida as a child, but then went back to Cuba. But after the death sentence, he went to New York. He ended up in New York City, where he founded the first Spanish language newspaper in the country, La Habanero. And he was big on, as you can imagine from what I've told you already, he was big on human rights and stuff like that, and cooperation between the English and Spanish-speaking communities. I wonder how big the Spanish-speaking community was in New York City at that time. Curious. Anyways, as I said, he was ordained a priest, so he functioned as a priest in the Diocese of New York. He became Vicar General, which is just like one rung below the bishop, so he's like the bishop's right-hand man, so that gave him quite a bit of power. It's kind of interesting, given the fact that he was Hispanic, and I'm assuming at the time there was, prejudice and stuff. Nevertheless, he had a major role in the diocese, and he worked simply as a priest. I mean, I don't have anything, majestic here in my notes about him. He just lived a simple, holy life as a priest. Eventually, he had to retire because he got asthma, and he died a few years later, apparently a natural death. And he's on his way to sainthood. He's recognized as a venerable now, as a good and holy man. So I'm presuming he is an American, because even though he wasn't born here, but he was naturalized. He moved here, and I'm assuming he became a naturalized citizen. Nevertheless, even if not, he died here in New York City or somewhere in New York State. So that's good enough for me. His bones we have his bones, and possession is 9/10 of the law, right, Mr. McMaster? So we got him. So we're keeping him. So I asked Venerable Felix to please pray for us in this class. Let's see. I'll do that. We're talking about the sacred, yes? Sacred? What is writing? No. What's going on, Mr. McKillop? Mr. McKillop? No greater truth has been spoken in this class so far. All right, the Tao, right, Mr. Jastrzemski? The Tao be with you. I was talking about the Tao, which is the sacred. However, actually, let me do this first. Since we're talking about the sacred, thought that you might find this interesting. We turn up the sound. Da, 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 da.
His heart will be. And the Necronomicon opens. When thou retrieve the animal from his cradle, you must recite the word Clatu Berata Necti.
Clatu Berata Nectar.
Well, repeat them.
Clatu Berata Nectar.
Again.
I got it. I know your damn words, all right? Seems fairly obvious. Words. Say the words. Clatu Berata. Nectar. Nectar. Nickel. Get away then. Clatu Berata. That's it. Hey, wait a minute. Everything's cool. I said the word. I did. Go. Promise once return. Here.
When you removed the Necronomicon from the cradle, did you speak the words?
Yeah, basically.
Did you speak the exact words?
Look, maybe I didn't say every single little tiny syllable, no, but basically I said them, yeah.
Sneaky fool. Thou hast doomed us all. When thou spoke the words, the army of the dead awoke.
Whoa. Yeah, well.
Having metal horns to the heavens and skies up above.
Oh, recon.
Because today we are doing a band called Recon.
No, you're not.
For Anish. Anish got a hold of me.
Anyways, anyone know what movie that's from? Anyone recognize the movie at all? Anybody? Anybody? Bueller? Bueller? No? Mr. McMaster? Oh, yes, sir. Army of Darkness. Number 3 in the Evil Dead series. Not really scary movie. It's meant to be a funny movie. I liked it. I didn't like it when I first saw it in the theaters. I was like, what is this? But then after, it kind of grew on. You've seen it, sir? Yes. I hope you like it, or it's funny. Okay. And I thought it was apropos, Mr. Wojciechowski, for the sacred, because what does he do? He's given a special words, Ms. Tran, which he screws up. You can't take the book, Mr. McKillop, off of whatever that is, altar or table, whatever, without saying these special words. If you say the special words, then everything's fine. If you don't say them, well, then as he said, the guy told him, you've doomed us all. You've raised the army of the dead to come destroy us. You violated the sacred. Although, if you listen closely, Mr. McMaster, didn't the dude say it was, what was it again? I can't even remember. What were the words again? The first word. What was the first word? But I thought the last word he pronounced it Nictu. So even still, the guy was going to say the wrong word. So I'd be like, "Hey, holy dude, you're the one who screwed up." Anyway, the sacred. Various ways we interact with it. Oh, we were talking about the Tao. There's another name for the in Eastern religions for the sacred, the way the world is, the unnameable Tao. If you can name the Tao, then you don't know what it is. And these things are not personal. The Tao is not a personal God. It's not the name for God or anything. It's totally impersonal. It's just the way things are. So, if you get cancer, it's just the way things are. That's the Tao. It's the way of life. It's not neither good nor bad. It just is. When we move over to, where am I here? Oh, when we move over to Western religion, well, we were in Western religion with Greece, but move over to Latin or Roman religion, the Romans, we come to our word, properly speaking, of religion, religio, religio. This word religio, which has a number of meanings. Scholars aren't exactly sure what it means actually, or what it comes from. Re and they know it seems to be the combination of two words from Latin, re and ligo, but they're not sure about the ligo part. What does that mean? Because there is a word in Latin, ligo ligare, which means to bind or to tie together, to fasten. Okay, and a lot of scholars like that as the source of the word religio because, yeah, religion does kind of bind the community together, gives them some kind of common purpose. So that seems to make sense. Maybe it's, God bless you, but maybe that's also a little bit too easy. But that's the common thing that you'll read in books and textbooks, that religio means, a binding together and stuff like that, which is what religion does. But there are other readings as well. This is even discussed by ancient authors, who spoke Latin. They didn't know where it came from, so they're kind of like trying to figure out. And ligo comes up, but also lego, which means to read. So does it mean that religion is a rereading, a reading again? Not sure how. I don't know what to make of it. I thought about that before. I just don't know how religion is a rereading. I don't know how to make that work. But lego can also have the meaning of to gather or collect. So collecting up things. Maybe you could see religion that way, I guess, as some kind of a collection of what? Stuff to give the gods. Man. I don't know, but that's another possible interpretation. Um, Still, a lot of scholars go with the first one, which is ligo, ligare, which seems to work. What binds together? Well, you have the family spirits that bind the family together, the spirits of the ancestors. Then you have the god or the spirits of the town, the gods of the nation. So you see, it's clear, it's binding them together. Maybe that might be where religio comes from. And I think that's just the default because, as I said, lego, which means collect or to read, I don't know how to make either of those really work. It is probably just lost to history. We don't know where it comes from, maybe. Maybe we just have to admit that. We just don't know where the word really comes from or what its first meaning was. But it does come to be attached to people's relationship with the sacred, spiritual things, the supernatural, the gods. So religion and its extended understanding amongst the Romans was reverence for the gods, devotion to the gods, having fear and awe of the gods, but also could be applied to the ceremonies used to worship the gods. Stuff like that would also be religion. But even the Romans recognized you'd have too much religion, which they called superstitio, superstition. You could be too, even back then, you could be too religious. Remember, that's where the word fanatic comes from, Miss Taylor. Fanatic, remember? From the word for temple, someone who goes to church too often, Miss Casada. You know what I'm saying? Look at Betty. She's always going into the chapel to pray. I'm not sure if I'm going to invite Betty to my party because she might be a buzzkill. Especially when we bring out the drugs. No one's listening. These human ideas, and these are human ideas, Tao, Dharma, Religio, Threskeia, whatever you want to call it, and there are other words in other languages that I haven't looked at, but these human ideas, whatever the terminology, describe the existence of something. People are perceiving something in different contexts, very different contexts, different cultures, different kinds of people. So I don't think, because that is a logical fallacy that you want to avoid. You want to say, just because everybody thinks this or recognizes this, it must be true or it must. No, that doesn't follow logically. I'm just looking at the data, though. What's the evidence? The evidence is people separated from other people in very different cultures all seem to have this same kind of experience of something that is separate or forbidden, something that's holy, that belongs to the gods, and that you have to treat it with respect. And you have to treat it differently than you treat normal things, like everyday items. And you seem to find this in just about every human culture. Now, the question is, where does that come from? Is that built into us genetically? Is it part of our DNA makeup? Is it, just the way our minds work? I don't know. That's a whole other question. But I do think that it's people recognize the existence of something that we can call the sacred. I haven't defined the sacred yet. No, I'm getting to that. Do I define the sacred? Yes, because this is about what is the sacred. This experience of something more, I guess, is the most basic way to describe it. I know that's not PhD language, but I don't care. I like simple language, that's why I love like Socrates and Plato, because Socrates is a philosopher. I can understand Socrates. Some of the modern philosophers, I don't understand what they're trying to say. I think they're intentionally trying to make it so hard to read and not understand to show that they're real thinkers, Give me Socrates any day of the week. Something more. And then people develop ideas and activities to understand what that's, to seek out that something more and interact with it. Most human cultures, if not all of them in some way, recognize something that's superior to them. It crosses all boundaries. It's above us. It crosses everything. It's everywhere in some sense. Even if you move from place to place, the spirits might be different, but the spirits are still everywhere. Okay? And there oftentimes these things are invisible. Not always. Because a lot of ancient religions, are animistic. They believe that everything is inhabited by a spirit, which you can see. So the trees that you see outside are all each have their own spirit. Some religions believe that every living entity has a spirit, so it's not necessarily invisible. Okay, we want to, but in our, in Christian categories, or say Jewish categories, or Islamic categories, God is spiritual. He's not physical, so you can't really see him physically. You can't see the angels physically. So they're invisible to us. So often these superior things that we sense are invisible to us. We're confronted with them. If you had to just describe it, it's kind of like a force, power, a feeling, something like that. And you want to interact with it. It interacts with you. It controls reality and gives meaning to it. Which, remember our definition from Freud, yes? Oh, no, we didn't do that from Freud. Sorry, forget about that. Different class. And it's above us. It's not a purely human reality. Even if we might represent this other something as human, like a lot of in the mythologies, the gods are described very much in human terms. They have bodies, and they have they fight, they have sex, they do just about everything humans do, but they're superhuman. They're not human, even though they might act very much like humans in the myths. All right, so there's still that recognition that they're superior. to human beings, even if we represent them as just really more powerful or more intelligent human beings in a way, but they're really not human beings. Human beings might be able to become them, be divinized into a god, but again, they don't start out as gods, they're made into gods, so there's still that acknowledgement of something different. And so reality is filled with these beings, the belief is. People believe that there are beings throughout reality, places, Shangri-La, or whatchamacallit, Garden of Eden, sacred places that you can go for, look for, or try to get back to. Return to paradise that was in the beginning. That's a big idea in religion, is the return, this mythology about going back to the way it was before, when of course it was always perfect before it got sour. That are separate. These things are different from the normal world, the ordinary world. Okay, things don't happen the same way there in this sacred space. So what is reality? Well, reality is just something that exists independently of human experience. When we talk about reality, I think that's what we're talking about. The word simply means thing. Res, rei in Latin, means a thing, an object. So the thing, that's not me. That's apparently independent of me and my experience. That's doing what it's doing, whether I want it to or not, If I want the door over there to close, I can't will it to close. I have to exercise my will by walking over there and physically closing it. That's reality. It's independent of what I might want to do, I wish this were a Harry Potter world in some ways. That'd be kind of cool, fun, although dangerous too, The Harry Potter films had a real dark side to them, didn't they? People still got killed in Harry Potter. But yeah, it's kind of cool to fantasize about, using your wand, and fixing someone's eyeglasses, or, doing all sorts of crazy things, going into a fireplace and then coming out on the other side of the world. So, But that's not reality. That's what we would like it maybe in some ways. We wish things were a certain way, but we realize that that thing that's not us is independent of us, and it's doing what it wants to do, whether I want it to or not. The planet is moving. That's reality. We're on a moving planet that's moving around a star that's moving within a galaxy which itself is moving through the void of space, time, whether we want that to happen or not. What are you going to do about it? And for me to think that I can change that, somehow I'll make the Milky Way galaxy stop moving. The whole Milky Way galaxy. Well, that's crazy talk. That's obvious. The whole Milky Way galaxy, billions of stars, and maybe other planets and stuff like that. Really? No, that's crazy. Well, I'll make Earth stop moving on its axis. I'll make the Earth slow down and come to a halt. Which I think Hollywood did actually make a disaster film about that, but which was a bomb-o. Because it's such a stupid idea. It's not possible that could, and there's no way that we can do it. No technological way that we could do that. It's not reality. We know these things working independently of us. You got to deal with reality. But this reality that I'm talking about, which is beyond the normal world, sometimes seems to interact with it and interferes with it, Mr. Seraphin. It breaks into the normal world. It's somehow existent, I guess you could say, outside of the normal world, if you want to speak in terms of place. It surrounds the normal world, I guess, whatever word you want to use. But nevertheless, sometimes it can kind of insert itself, apparently, into what is the normal world. and the reality of the normal world, the reality of this other type of existence inserts its own reality into ours, and it's weird because they're not the same reality. So it's weird to us. People notice things that are unusual. And that's oftentimes, I think, what religion is dealing with, or the sacred, the idea of the sacred. Something weird happens, something unusual that people don't understand. It may have a scientific explanation, but then there are things that are just weird that we're not sure we can ever understand. And this reality that it affects everything. You know, there's no part of human existence that is not a part of it. So, yeah, I mean, in the ancient world, I may have mentioned this a little bit. I started talking about religion and stuff. There weren't really words for religion. These are words describing something. Yes, but they didn't see it the way we do. They didn't compartmentalize. Now we talk about the secular and the religious. The secular, which is defined non-religious, where there are no questions of religion at all. They're not brought up at all, whether you're religious or not. But then we have religious issues. Okay. So, and we usually try to keep them separate. In our government, for example, or our politics, or in business, when you're out at work or something. Your employer doesn't typically say, oh, did you go to mass today? Or did you go to synagogue? Or have you said must be something in the water here. There must be. 50. A lot of enlarged prostates. Although I shouldn't say that because women don't have prostates, right? So what's going on there? Guys, I can maybe understand. There are medical treatments. I don't know what to do about 20-somethings that small bladders. I don't know. Miss Colomere, Miss Diaversa, sorry. I gotta make my own fun, Miss Diaversa. Anyways, what was I saying? I was saying something. Usually saying something. Yeah, it's an unusual, I was saying, go back to what you were saying before. It's an unusual reality. It's usually something weird. Maybe we could explain it. Maybe we can't. Oh well. Maybe I'll get it back. So it's seen as being, the sacred, there's something that's seen as even more real than our reality. Whatever this thing is that's beyond our reality, we see it as even the standard by which we judge reality. It should be like this, like the myth of the return to paradise or heaven or something like that. That's how we want our existence to be. We don't want it to be like this. This is it. This is it that we have to live with nuclear weapons and garbage dumps and plastic bottles floating in the sea, as well as the good stuff like figure skating and other things, Indian food, along with the good and the bad. But that's it. That's, we want something more. This other reality, independent of us, where everything is perfect. That's another thing that kind of qualifies the sacred, that it's perfect. It's not imperfect. You're not going to get sick there. You're not going to get tired. Okay? You're not going to get hungry as you will in this reality. Oh, it interferes. Yeah. So it's a reality that we want. It transcends everything. It somehow bridges everything, whereas our reality does not necessarily. Unless the universe is actually infinite, then that blows my argument out of the water. But anyways, transcendo in Latin, to climb across, to climb over, or step over something. That's all transcendent means, something that extends above and beyond, but just the fancy word to say that this reality of the sacred or the holy or religion or gods or whatever, it transcends the physical reality or normal reality that we know. And it's a transcendent meaning as well, as I was just saying. It means more than this world. it gives meaning to this world. Well, why can't we just accept the meaning of this world, Ms. Prawl? You're born, you mature, you reach your peak, you decline, and then you die. That's the reality of this world, right? What's wrong with that? Is that okay? You don't like that? But that's what happens. Isn't it?
There's more to life than just a life form.
Is there?
I think so.
You think so? How do you know? Why do you think that?
You have like experiences and meet people, do stuff that makes you happy.
You meet people what?
You meet new people.
Oh, so but aren't they gonna die too? Don't they die too eventually?
Yeah.
Okay. So what does meeting them help you understand about there being more to life?
I get to make connections and in short, time that you have, it makes everything.
Oh, okay. So you're happy for a short amount, because those connections will eventually be broken, won't they? I'm assuming. Eventually. So the meaning of life, is there a time limit on meaning then? It's not going to be forever, it's as long as you have these connections with these people.
Yeah, I guess we just make the most of it.
Make the most of what you got. Okay. Interesting. Interesting. Again, watch it. What movie are you watching now? What movie is that? Is it a television show or a movie? It's a show? What show is it? Huh? The Runarounds? What's that about? Interesting. At least you're not doing puzzles. At least you're focusing on the show. Okay, interesting. There we're going to get into the problem, Why, you want more out of this life, but, this is the life that you have, right? Isn't that just reality with Snyder and, birth, growth, decline, death? Yeah, it's pretty simple model. It can be pretty consistent throughout the universe, entropy, things don't come back into order, they actually go out in chaos and fall apart. But you don't want that, Ms. Prawl. Parent, Mr. Wojciechowski, do you want more than that? Or is that's sufficient?
I feel like everybody wants more of it.
But what do you want, say? Do you want more too? Or is that just sufficient for you?
I don't know.
You're not sure, you don't know? Why don't you know?
Because there probably comes a point where you don't want to do anything. But there also comes a point where you want to keep going.
You want, like, living forever or living to, what if you still keep aging though? What if that's part of the bargain? Like just a massive wrinkles, but hey, you're gonna live forever. Where's the bingo game? I came to play bingo. Oh, did I tell you it's my 950th birthday? 950 years down. Good. Sure you need to go, Mr. Wojciechowski. No, you want to be healthy, like, young or whatever, I guess, if you're going to live forever. You don't want to continue aging forever, becoming decrepit. Yeah, we think this transcendent reality is better than the one we have. And we want it. Yes, Mr. Seraphin. Yes, sir. And it's not, as I said, again, this reality is not maybe directly visible or perceivable by normal means. You have to do things to perceive it. Take mind-altering drugs in some religions. Smoke the peyote, or take some kind of potion. Meditate. Discipline your mind and your thoughts. in order to able to open your mind to allow this other reality to pour itself in. But all sorts of things that people try to do to try to interact with it, and to make what's not directly to perceive this reality that's not directly perceivable. There are exercise, just like exercise in the gym, physical exercise. We'll have that there. Empirical. They put that there. Not even sure anymore. Empirical just means experience. We rely on our experiences and our observation. So yeah, I mean, people believe in this stuff, but it's not always purely belief. People have experiences. They could be misinterpreting the experiences, you know, like, I remember there was a movie in the 80s, a South African movie. I stumbled into it one day. I walked into the movie, didn't know what it was. People were laughing their heads off, and I'm watching it. I watched it for like a few minutes, and I just thought, this was the stupidest thing I've ever seen, and I walked out. But now I've guess kind of come to appreciate it. It was a South African movie called The Gods Must Be Crazy. The Gods Must Be Crazy. Anyone ever hear of it? Anybody? Jastrzemski, The Gods Must Be Crazy? No? Anyways. And the whole premise of the movie was there's this bushman, out in the bush of South Africa, the countryside, tribesman, and where there's really no technology, and he hasn't seen modern technology, apparently, even into the 1980s. In a modern country like South Africa. But okay, that's the premise of the film. He's living out in the Netherlands, where there is no technology. He's not aware of it. And there's a guy flying a plane, twin prop plane, and drinking a bottle of Coke. A cola. Yeah, okay. Not the other, although originally. But he's drinking, soda. And as he's flying along, he finishes his bottle of Coke and he throws it out the window because, of course, he's a Westerner, and that's what we don't. I mean, he could have, thrown it out, put it on the seat next to him, thrown it in his garbage, just throw it out, out into the countryside. Who's gonna know? And the bottle, of course, you can see this coming a mile away, falls down at the feet of the bushman, the tribesman, who has never seen a glass bottle before. Of course, I've never seen a plane. So what is this? He assumes it must be the gods. The plane is the god, and the god has given him this empty bottle of Coca-Cola. And Miss Crystal, hilarity ensues. At least for the people who are watching the movie, I didn't get it. I didn't think it was that funny, and I think I've seen snippets of it since then. I still don't think it's that funny, but whatever. That's the premise of the movie. But experience. I mean, you might say, well, this is kind of preposterous. It's a Coca-Cola bottle, and it's a guy flying a plane. We know Ms. Diaversa. Right there with it. We know this is not supernatural or whatever, but it was put to the bushman, and he had observable evidence to back up his belief that one of the gods had thrown this object down to the earth. Why couldn't it be a god? Well, because I know it's an airplane and it's a man in it flying an airplane. I know that, and I know it's a manufactured bottle for a soft drink, as they say. I don't know why I call them soft drinks, but whatever. Bottle of sugar, or liquid sugar is really what it is. I know these things. He didn't know that. He had evidence for his belief. Empiria, empirical experience. So he relied on his experience or observation. It was wrong, I would say, in the movie, but he was right in the sense, he wasn't wrong. He was wrong, but he wasn't wrong in the sense that he had that experience. And maybe if he had more experiences, Okay, like he walked out of the bush and walked into a town or a village or a city in South Africa and started seeing people getting into airplanes and flying them, or saw Coca-Cola bottles being sold. He might have started to realize that his experience needed to be broadened. It wasn't wrong. He had the experience, had the experience. For him, it was religious. He interpreted it as, because it was weird and unusual. Things flying through the sky. That doesn't happen except for birds. What is this? This see-through material that I can see. You know, the same. We find the same thing in other cultures. For example, when I was living in Papua New Guinea for 9 months, you know, if you look at the history of the people who lived there before there was contact, there was only first contact with many of the Papua New Guineans in the 1920s and 30s. So like less than a century ago, Ms. Taylor, because no one knew that all the people were living in the mountains, in the mountain valleys. They didn't realize it until they discovered, Australians discovered gold in the region, and of course started pouring into the mountains and found millions of people living there that they didn't know existed before, and they didn't know that white people existed, or Westerners. And so, and they were truly Stone Age. They had never developed any kind of metalworking or anything like that. So things like iron, bronze, any kind of metal was totally foreign to them. They liked it because it was so strong and stuff. But, you know, and it was useful. They had no clue, but it was fascinating. It was unusual to them. Hence, is this from the gods? You know? It's unusual, so they interpret it as sacred, something that's not normal. This not normal reality is also given ultimate value. Ulter in Latin means ultimate, or last, excuse me, means last, but it also means beyond. So it's beyond the normal in a way. It's after the normal. And so it's ultimate, but it just last. It's the last. There's nothing in the sense of there's nothing beyond it if it's the last, but it could also be in the sense of being beyond the normal. You know, it's more than normal, but it's ultimate. Okay, it's last, or it's final. And so sacred things, religious things, are seen as giving a finality, as Ms. Prawl said, meaning, right? Meaning. That apparently the normal cycle of life and death, or how this universe, our reality works, isn't good enough. It doesn't give meaning. We need this other reality which will give us the final meaning. What ultimately, Ms. Quesada, does your life mean? What do you think? What do you think your life means? What if you, I don't do this. Like me, but no, I'm just, the biggest, what was it? 20 years ago, I remember when my nephew was a little kid, doing all sorts of crazy stuff to get on YouTube, because that was the thing to do. You had to become famous, right? How many followers do you have? Okay? How many people respond to your tweets? You know, because now you're an influencer. You're an influencer, right? And that's important, because people make money off of it, you know? If the influencer, you know, wears, I don't know, some bracelet that you made and shows it on TikTok and say, "Hey, I see this a cute bracelet. I got this. This girl makes it. Go to her website. Whammo! Your website lights up, you know? Maybe, unless the influencer is like a low end, like nobody's watching, you know? But usually if it's a famous person, Oprah recommended my stuff, you know? Well, I think Oprah's influence is waning as people don't even know who Oprah, you probably don't even know who Oprah is anymore, I guess. But you know of other people, you know what I'm talking about. Many of us are going to be like that. When you die, how many people are going to know that you died? How many people are going to care? Can you count them on one hand, two hands? when you're gone? How many people are going to remember you? We want to give some final meaning to what we're doing for some reason. Even if you don't believe in an afterlife, like you're an atheist, I want to leave my mark on the world, show the world that I was here. Cares? So what? I mean, the world's going to be, the earth is going to be fried to a cinder in about 4 billion years when our sun starts dying and expands. So whatever mark on the world you're going to leave, even a physical one, like you're going to make a monument out of stone, that'll last forever. Oh, yeah. Ask an archaeologist how well that works. All them stone monuments that they find, yeah, broken up and degraded. Even if they do last, who is this? Ashurbanipal? Who's Ashurbanipal? Yeah, no one knows anymore because all the people from that time are dead. Miss Colony. There's no one around to tell you who this person was. So we want meaning, even if we don't believe in an afterlife. For some reason, we're just looking for the meaning. We want the ultimate. We want some finality. There's a purpose, an end to what we're doing. It's not just being born, growing up, living, dying. It's ultimate. There's nothing beyond this meaning. This is what makes it all worthwhile. You said friendship, Ms. Prawl. Other people might say family. It's all about family. Okay? Which I guess if you're an only child and you never get married or have kids, I guess you're screwed, right, Ms. Casada? No one's coming to your funeral. No, but yeah, I mean, what if a person's sterile or a guy's impotent or can't have kids? Just can't. It's great when you have family. But what if you can't? So we still want it, this ultimate, and it's real. As I said, I'm talking about it's real. We're getting to this point of ultimate reality, the ultimately real, okay? This thing, independent of me, which gives complete totalizing meaning to the other reality that I'm living in. This reality isn't good enough. This reality, apparently, if it's just this, has no purpose, has no meaning. It's not expansive enough for us, We're confined to this very little planet and a relatively nondescript galaxy. And it's all going to end anyways. It might not end for trillions of years with the heat. Did I mention the heat death of the universe? Did I ever mention the heat? Oh, yeah, well, anyway. Well, I mean, it's a theory because we're not going to be there. I'm not going to be there. So maybe it won't happen, but the whole universe is moving away from itself. Every bit of it. Faster and faster. I don't know how that works because the speed of light was the fastest you could go. So if you're going faster and faster, faster and faster than what? But whatever. But the whole universe, all the galaxies, all the planets, all the galaxies are moving away from each other. And of course, eventually all the parts of the galaxy will move away from each other. All the stars and the planets will move away. And eventually, all the atoms, even the atoms that are in your body, the electrons, protons, the neutrons, etc. and so forth, they'll start moving away, being pulled away. It's not going to happen overnight, Mr. Barnett. It'll take some trillions, several trillions, maybe hundreds of trillions of years. But eventually, it seems, according to the theory, is what is going to happen because there's nothing to bring the universe back. All the evidence is that every part of it is moving away from every other part at an increasingly higher speed. So even the atoms will be. Well, once you have that, you have no friction. The atoms aren't bouncing into each other, so you have no heat production. You have heat death. The heat death of the universe. No heat, no life. Well, life will probably go on a long time before that. There'll be no energy produced. energy will basically be nil. So there'll be no energy in the universe to produce matter. That'll be over with. It won't be possible. So, if they're correct, if astrophysicists are correct about this, again, trillions of years in the future, I have no idea if that's going to happen. I'm not going to be there. I do know that. I have pretty good evidence of that. Well, unless I'm perched up in heaven, Ms. Taylor, watching it all happen. Sorry, bastards. But they'll all be here with me eventually. No, but there is an ultimate final expiration date on everything, even the atoms that comprise us. Not just our lives. So it's not just about us, it's beyond us. Everything has an expiration date in the universe. And what comes after the heat death? Well, nothing. The void. Nothing. Because there's no heat to generate anything, no matter, no nothing, everything. And it's still, the universe is still moving out infinitely at infinitely higher speeds from everything else. So nothing. That's just it. That's the astronomers' version of, well, that's their story. Kind of like the Bible. If you actually, I like that story a lot better, Mr. McMaster. That's the one I want to believe in. But anyways, but there is, again, so what is the meaning of the universe then? My little blip of a life is gone, but even everything is gone eventually. And there's nothing left. It's a void. A cold void. So we look or we feel like there must be something more than that, because the reality we do know is telling us that if this is just it, that, there better be something other than this. We're looking for it. Something that's more final and meaningful than what this reality is, because that's not meaningful. There is no meaning if everything just eventually burns out. So people want to act with this reality. Another name for this reality that's used in religious studies, and I've been using it already, another way to term this ultimate reality is the sacred. But I guess the sacred is more of a way to describe the interaction of this reality with normal reality. Okay? When this ultimate reality somehow gives pointers to its existence, it can take over a place or a person or a thing for itself, or human beings might produce or perform rituals or actions that allow them to create some kind of experience of ultimate reality. An out-of-body experience, right? Yeah. Or a vision or something. We call this the sacred or the holy, traditionally, Mr. McKillop. It's the perception. We perceive this powerful order, or I guess you could just, maybe power is the best way to put it, just power, in the universe that is ultimately real and meaningful. It's an experience. So we have the word empirical. It's empirical. You experience it. It's not something you rationalize to. You can rationalize about it, but it's more of usually in religion, it's an experience. You're doing things, or things are happening to you. Usually in religions, something happens. The Buddha is enlightened. He's sitting under a tree, and bep, he gets the answer. And he immediately achieves nirvana. Okay? He stops. He's broken the cycle of death and rebirth. He will no longer be reborn into any life. Or you hear a sound, like a lot of the Hindu wise men. They hear a sound like like a bell or something, which is the sound of the universe. And they are filled with the divine knowledge or sacred knowledge. It's a sound. Or you see a burning bush. Moses sees a burning bush that's burning but not consumed, which is weird, unusual. And he hears a voice which says it's from God. He experiences this. It's usually not people who are philosophers, just sitting down and thinking about stuff. Usually people who are just going about their normal everyday, and bammo, something weird happens, which changes the trajectory of their life or how they're viewing things. They achieve enlightenment. They have a revelation. They see a vision. Something happens. If they believe it happens or not, it's not the point. They experience something. Yeah, are there fakes and frauds? Yeah, of course there are fakes. There are people who can lie and say, oh yeah, God spoke to me and blah, blah, blah. All right, fine, you know. But I think there are people who do have legitimate things happen to them for whatever reason. They experience it and it changes them. They experience the sacred in some way. Okay? You say about that. Sacer, the word that it comes from is sacer in Latin. Sacer. Is used for anything dedicated to a god. So anything that basically is owned by a god is the god's property. So you're giving stuff over to this ultimate reality, saying this cup, you know, or this book perfectly expresses ultimate reality, or this cup will be used only in ceremonies where we're worshiping or acknowledging, say, ultimate reality, or this person will be dedicated solely to serving ultimate reality. Okay, now they're set apart from the normal. They're now sacred. They're forbidden. Okay, don't touch this. Don't eat that. Don't go there. Usually, what happens with the sacred? Usually, stuff you don't do to it because you have to show respect. Because it's dangerous. Because it's the gods, and if you piss off the god, then God might hurt you or punish you or the community. Okay? Sacer is related to the Greek word saos or sos, long O, omega, hence the line over the O, which you see means safety, to be safe, alive and well. You want to stay safe? You treat these sacred objects the way they're supposed to be treated. You don't, disaster might happen. You know, your cows might stop giving birth to more cows, or their udders might dry up and have no milk. Your crops might die, you know? Why? Because you mishandled the sacred in some way. Anyone read the Odyssey in school? Odysseus, Ulysses, anyone read the Odyssey? No? Great epic. Mr. McMaster, you have? Here or high school? Or okay. Wow, that's interesting. Read the whole thing or just parts? You had to read the whole thing? Anybody else? Nobody else? Do you remember, Mr. McMaster, why Odysseus got into trouble?
In which part?
Well, in the beginning.
Like leaving Troy?
Mm-hmm. What mistake did he make? Made a mistake. Do you remember? That's okay. That's all right. No, I just, don't want it to be all about me, Mr. Seraphin. No, I help you, you help me. I help you, you help me. I help you. He forgot, well, when you're leaving there, he was at Troy, the city of Troy, where there was a big battle going on, a war that they won. And after the battle, everyone was going home and getting on their boats and going back to wherever they were from in Greece. And so this guy, Odysseus or Ulysses, depending which version of the name you like, was about to get in the boat. Well, actually, he did just get in the boat and left. But what he should have done, which he failed to do, was offered a sacrifice to one of the gods. It might have been Poseidon, but don't quote me on that. I forget which god. But nevertheless, should have offered a sacrifice to one of the gods for a safe voyage. And I don't think he did. or he made it the wrong way, but something was wrong with that aspect of it. I don't think he made the sacrifice, I remember. He just didn't do it. And so that pissed off, yeah, it must have been Poseidon because he's the one who blows him off course. So Poseidon waits until Odysseus and his crew get within sight of the island that they're from, and then sends up a big wind, that massive wind that blows the ship way off course somewhere far out, wherever. They don't know where they are. And then the rest of the story of the Odyssey, it's an Odyssey. Like, it's kind of like, everyone see like the movie, what is it, what's it called? I can see the guys who were in the movie, but I can't remember it's where they're at the bachelor party, and it's a whole night where they're in Vegas and all sorts of crazy things happen to them. Who was in it? I don't even know their names. Well, whatever. But it's like a whole bunch of stuff happens. He and his crew have to get back to their, I forget what the name of the Ithaca, I think was the name of the island. He wants to get home, and it takes like 20 years or something to finally get back. That's his punishment for having pissed off the god, not having honored the sacred properly. And it made him unsafe. He was not safe. He was punished for it. He punished badly for it. And that's the whole purpose, or that's the whole story. Okay. He did not properly honor the sacred. There we go. Could be this word sacred, could be also related, since we're dealing with writing and languages and stuff like that. So I looked it up. Ancient Hittite was an ancient language, Indo-European language, spoken in the area of Turkey, modern day Turkey. Where is that? Let's take a little look. Yeah. Over here. Okay, up here is the modern country of Turkey. I don't know why we can't call it Turkey anymore. It's now Turkey. Yeah, I guess that's what they want you to call it. But any Turks here? Any Turks? No? No. All right, Turkey is here, and that's where the ancient Hittites, as they're called, lived or populated. And they spoke a language which was Indo-European. It's a dead language now. There are no Hittites around. They are mentioned in the Bible, though. And from what we know of their language, they had this word shaklai, which seems to be related to the Latin sacer, or it could also be pronounced sacer, so you can see the closer resemblance, shaklai, which refers to rituals or customs, behavior, okay? So you have that kind of connection, the rituals, because usually with the sacred, you interact with it with ritual. Because you can't treat it normally. You have to treat it in a certain way, right? He's trying to think, well, going to Roman Catholic churches, it's not the same as it was anymore. But, if you go into a Roman Catholic church, those of you who are Catholic, you go through the door with what do you do before you go through the door? As you're going through the door to the church, before you enter fully the church, what are you supposed to do? What do people commonly do? There's a ritual. Anybody? I'm not trying to call anybody out if you don't want to say what your religion is. Does anybody have the experience of having gone to a Catholic church? Have you seen people do this? Ms. Tran. Oh, and then what do you do? Yeah. You put there's a little fountain or stoup or whatever, whatever you want to call it, or a bowl contained with water in it. You dip your fingers in the water and you make the sign of the cross. And you even say words with it, right? It's not just, you're not even the action. You say in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit. So there's physical stuff, the water, you take the water, but then you also put the water on your body physically, and then you say words while you're doing it. There's a whole ritual going on before, as you're entering the building. It's just a building, Miss Senior. It's a sacred place. You have to enter it properly. Enter it properly. You can't just storm in. At least, and this was even more so in the older days. Now, it's become lessened, but, you can't enter a mosque. I don't know if any of our students here are Muslim, or Muslimas, followers of Islam. Not trying to put anyone on the spot. Or anyone who's ever been to a mosque. Can you just walk into a mosque to pray? Mr. Lebedinsky, do you know? Okay, yeah, you're assuming correctly, sir. You're assuming correctly. No, you cannot. You have to take your shoes off. You have to take a little bit of a bath. Wash your arms and your feet and your head. Yes? Yes. Yes. And, if you can't bring any weapons, you have to be unarmed. And there's the belief that the mosque is under protection. So even if, you do try to come in a way that's improper, there are angels guarding the door and they will stop you. That's the belief. I did not see the angels when I went in. I might have said hello to them, because I believe in angels too. Of course, my angels are Christians. But, whatever. Muslims are good people. So they're hanging out at the mosque. Okay, God bless you. See you at church on Sunday. But there's a thing before even entering. There's a thing you have to do. Because you're violating the sacred if you don't do them. It used to be that you had to dress a certain way. It still is. If you go over to the Middle East or something, I almost went to, but when I was in the seminary, they were going to pay for a bunch of us seminarians to go over to the Holy Land. I probably should have gone, but I don't know. I chickened out. I didn't want to get blown up. Yeah. I don't know, just whatever. But that's what I thought. But really, I didn't want to sit on an airplane for 13 hours. It was long. But anyways, so I chickened out. I should have gone, so at least I could have said I would. I almost went again, but then COVID happened. It's all set to go with my church, and COVID happened, and that was the end of that. So we'll see. But anyways, but yeah, if you go to the Holy Land, like churches do, they take little trips, the youth group goes, or a bunch of people go, and be prepared, because, some of the churches, you're a woman, for example, you have to be wearing appropriate dress. You can't wear short shorts and a t-shirt. They won't let you in. It's disrespectful to show that much of your body. It's sensual, sexual. Same thing with mosques. Even in this country, when getting in a mosque, if you're a woman, if you dress like that, and you're a lady, dressed in a veil, covering your arms and legs. Because those things are seen as sensuous. Maybe not in our culture, we don't care, The Emmys were on the other night, and they're showing some little pictures. I was trying not to look, it was crowd, I wasn't looking. You see some of these actresses show up, and what are they wearing? Who had the most risque dress on it, or had a dress? They're eventually just not going to show up in clothes anymore. I think it's going. What's the point? What's the point? Don't show up in any clothes. And another article was on CNN, BBC, Emma Watson, Harry Potter. Oh, yes. For some reason, she decided to take a picture of some sheer outfit, which we know all know sheer would be see-through. You could imagine her naked, or just kind of, Emma, what are you doing? Watching my sister, I don't have a sister, but it's like, what are you doing? But still I was. But, where was I going? Oh yeah, appropriated. This is a sacred place. You have to dress a certain way. And the same thing would go for men as well. Wearing shorts or something. Not permitted. You're in the arena of the sacred. You don't want to piss off the God, the holy. The word holy, which is another word related in meaning to sacred. Remember, saosos, meaning safe, but it has the same meaning. From our word for whole, wholeness or health, okay, is related to the word for holy. But safety, being healthy, kailo in Proto-Indo-European. It's probably the basis for all the other languages. Kailo there's an asterisk here because it means that this is the theoretical form. We don't know if it existed in reality, but this is what scholars think was theoretical form of the original word for holy. And then into the Germanic languages, it became heilig and holly. Into holly, you get holy in English. In other languages, a lot of times, the L turns into an R, though kairos, saker, something like that. But I'm not a professional linguist, so I can't plant the whole or point the whole trajectory of the word. But anyways, that's what they think. But the meaning of this word in Proto-Indo-European, its a basic meaning was also, again, safety, wholeness. Okay, a very common thing. That's what you would imagine in a, mainly a hunter and gathering society, a tribal society where you're on your own in your small group. Safety, health. You want your women to be healthy so you have more kids and the tribe increases. You want to be safe when you go out hunting and gathering. You don't get attacked by the animals and killed, okay? Because nothing was going to happen. No ambulance was going to come for you, which they didn't know about anyways, obviously. There's no hospital you could be taken to. No medication that you could be given to treat an infection or whatever, or a wound. So you want to respect the sacred or the holy because of the damage it can do to you. And it can also keep you safe. So if you are going to go out into the deep sea fishing, or you're going to go out into the forest hunting, and it's dangerous because animals are dangerous. Some animals. I mean, if you're hunting like rabbits or something, unless it's Panicula, a vampire rabbit, But, a wild boar, If you're fishing, you deal with sharks and stuff like that. So you might invoke the sacred for protective purposes, keep you safe. Has anyone seen those advertisements? You get those emails from class about having a doula? It's a study doula. Is that what they're talking about? Oh, no, that's something else. It's my local library. Forget about it. Anyone know what a doula is? Ever hear of a doula? Used to be big in the 90s, but it seems to be making a comeback. A doula? Yeah, it's like a secular shaman, a non-religious shaman. Have some woman present, with rattles and bongo drums and stuff, and to make soothing sounds while the woman's giving birth. Naturally, so take her mind off the pain. Keep her healthy. Okay, God bless you all. I will see you on Thursday. What did I do? Thank you, sir. You're welcome, sir. Have a good day. Have a good day, sir. Sir. Good. Thank you. I'm assuming you saw my email about the accommodation letter. When are you going to give it to me?
I'll get it to you this week.
Okay. Just
Yeah.
email it. You don't need to bring it to class. Just send it me a copy.
Okay,
All right.
sound good. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Cobb was not here. Ms. Cabby. Crystal was here. Yes. Master. Did he show up late? Crawl was here. I don't remember if they were late or not. Harrison is absent. I don't remember if McMaster was here late, so I won't say. I don't remember. Barnett. Colony, Diaversa. Yastrzemski, Kelsey, Lebedinsky, Killip, Master, Raul, Quesada, Senior, Snyder. Tran, Jakowski. Da-da-da-dee-dee-dee-dee.